The lone ship. The stars were quiet. Deep in space near the border of Sector 7G, the alien coalition picked up a signal. It was coming fast. Strange. Unusual. Not from their territory. Commander Valor, leader of the Varnak fleet, looked at the screen in front of him. "Only one ship?" he asked, confused. His second-in-command, Relo, nodded. "Yes, sir, one human ship. Small, slow, no weapons detected." Commander Valor frowned. This made no sense. The humans had been silent for over 5 years, ever since the peace treaty was signed. Now, out of nowhere, a single ship was entering their space. "Send a message," Valor said. "Ask them to explain." But there was no answer. The human ship marked Echo 7 kept moving forward, silent, steady, and alone. The other alien commanders laughed when they heard the news. "Typical humans," said one. "Always dramatic. Maybe they're surrendering." "Or maybe it's a trap," said another. "A single ship can't be this calm, not unless it's hiding something." Commander Valor wasn't laughing. His instincts told him something was wrong, very wrong. Across the stars, the Echo 7 moved like a ghost. Inside the ship, no one was visible, no pilot, no crew, no lights. Yet the ship flew perfectly, following a direct path toward the main Varnak station. Alien scanners tried to read the ship. No living signals, no weapons. Just a power source that didn't match any known type. It was as if the ship was alive, but not in a way machines should be. Then the message came, a voice calm, cold, human, but not fully. It said, "One is all we need." Commander Valor stood still. "What does that mean?" Relo asked, his voice shaky. "I don't know," Valor said. "But alert the High Command. This is no normal visit." In the command hall of the Varnak Coalition, leaders from 5 alien races gathered. They watched the footage from the Echo 7. They saw the empty ship, the strange power readings, the message. "Is it a trick?" one asked. "Could be a new type of AI," said another. "Or a virus ship, something designed to infect our systems." "Or, maybe," said Commander Valor, "it's not here to fight at all." That thought made the room go quiet. Back in space, 3 Varnak fighter ships approached Echo 7. Their mission was simple: stop the ship, board it, search it. But as they got closer, their systems began to fail. Lights flickered, engines slowed. Pilots heard strange whispers in their minds, voices speaking in languages they didn't know. One pilot screamed, "She's inside! The ship! It's inside my head!" His ship spun out of control and vanished into the dark. The other 2 fighters returned quickly. The pilots were pale. One refused to speak, the other kept repeating the same word. "Echo, echo, echo." Now, even the bold leaders were nervous. "What kind of weapon is this?" they asked. But the truth was, Echo 7 hadn't fired a single shot. It hadn't even opened its doors. And yet, it was winning. Commander Valor watched the ship as it stopped, right outside their main station. It just floated there, waiting. Then the second message came. This time, the voice was softer, almost kind. "You broke the peace, but we will not break with you. We offer one ship, one chance." "What chance?" Valor asked out loud. "What do they want?" The ship said nothing more. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Commander Valor opened the last report sent by human diplomats 5 years ago. Inside it was one line marked in red. "If you ever see Echo 7, it means we gave you one last chance to understand." Valor's blood ran cold. Back on Echo 7, lights slowly turned on inside the ship. For the first time, a figure appeared, not human, not alien. A shape made of light and shadow, walking calmly through the control room. It looked at the stars, then smiled. "They're watching," it said. "Good." The message, the stars didn't blink. They simply watched. Echo 7 floated like a silent god outside the alien station, still untouched, still unreadable. Inside the Varnak command hall, panic had turned into fear, and fear had turned into silence. The ship had spoken, but it made no demands. It had sent no weapons, only words. Strange, cold, and final. One is all we need. The message repeated every hour like a heartbeat. Relo, the second in command, sat in front of the main holo table. His face was pale, his eyes heavy. "I've seen warships. I've seen bombs. I've seen cloaked destroyers," he said. "But this thing doesn't feel like war. It feels like judgment." Commander Velor didn't respond. He was staring at the star map, watching Echo 7's signal pulse like a calm breath. He didn't trust the silence. Not anymore. "Sir," Relo said carefully, "what if it's a weapon? We don't understand?" Velor slowly turned his eyes toward him. "No," he said. "Weapons don't ask you to understand. They don't wait." Somewhere deep in the Varnak system, a young alien officer named Tellin watched the feed from his private terminal. He was only 22 cycles old, barely an adult in Varnak terms, and not important enough to be in the main war room. But Tellin had always studied humans, their wars, their music, their strange way of laughing even in pain. He leaned closer to the screen, watching Echo 7's message repeat for the 7th time. One is all we need. But this time, there was more. Just before the signal ended, the voice added a new line. "We know who you are, Talon." His blood ran cold. How could it know his name? He jumped to his feet, ran out of his chamber and called security. But when they searched his system, the message had returned to normal. No mention of his name, no second line. The officer in charge laughed. "Maybe you need rest, Tellin." But Tellin knew what he heard. And it wasn't a mistake. It was a warning. Meanwhile, inside Echo 7 something had awakened. The shape that appeared in Part 1, made of light and shadow, now stood still, arms behind its back, like a teacher waiting for a student to answer a question. Across the walls, memories played like old films, images of Earth burning, of children crying in shelters, of stars going dark. And then, the image of the Varnak leaders breaking the peace treaty, smiling while they ordered the attack on the Andromeda colonies. 5 billion humans lost. The shape didn't speak. It didn't need to. Echo 7 was not just a ship. It was history wrapped in steel. And now it had come to deliver memory back to its makers. Back at the Coalition Council, the panic had turned into argument. "We should destroy it now," shouted High General Yilth of the Jar Dominion. "Crush it before it spreads, whatever signal it's using." "And what if we can't?" asked Velor quietly. Yilth banged a fist on the table. "One ship cannot hold this much power." Velor looked at him with tired eyes. "That's what scares me most. It's not power that terrifies me, it's purpose." Elsewhere, Tellin couldn't sleep. He kept replaying the voice saying his name. "We know who you are, Tellin." That line wasn't a threat, it was personal. Like the ship had looked into him, into his memories. He accessed the human files again, and something caught his attention. A deleted file recovered from Earth's final AI labs. The file was simple. A single sentence. Project Echo. Empathy as a weapon. Tellin's heart raced. That wasn't a warship. It was a mirror. At the edge of the alien fleet, something strange happened. A scout ship without orders turned and approached Echo 7. It was old and slow, mostly used for training missions. No one was inside. Or so they thought. As it got closer, the ship sent a message in a dead Earth language, one no alien could understand. But Echo 7 answered. Its lights changed color. Its energy signature shifted, and then for the first time, the ship opened. The Coalition screamed alerts across the system, weapons aimed, shields raised, sirens blared. Inside the open doorway of Echo 7, a light appeared, and in that light stood a child. Human, no older than 7. She looked around, smiled gently, and said, "Are you ready to listen now?" Echoes of Earth. The child inside Echo 7 didn't move. She stood calmly in the doorway of the ship, a faint white light glowing around her. Her eyes were bright, but strange, like galaxies trapped behind them. She wore a simple dress, made of fabric no alien could identify. Her feet didn't touch the floor. "Are you ready to listen now?" she asked again, in perfect Varnak language. No one answered. The alien soldiers watching from across the station through cameras and scopes were frozen. Guns aimed, fingers twitching, but no one pulled the trigger. Commander Velor watched her, through the main screen, heart pounding. A child, on a ship that had already disabled 2 fighters, affected minds, and spoken to them all? "This is not a child," Velor said softly. "This is something else wearing a child's face." Relo whispered, "What do we do now?" Velor didn't know. The girl took a single step forward. The moment her foot touched the metal floor, the energy around Echo 7 changed. It pulsed softly, like it was breathing. Lights flickered on the alien station, as if the ship was sinking, with everything around it. Then a sound filled the air, not a scream, not a song, a memory. Thousands of light years away on a forgotten Earth, long-dead speakers began to whisper, not through air, not through signal, but through space itself. The aliens listening heard oceans, wind, the sound of children laughing, human voices telling stories around fire. Then came the screams. Cities burning, sirens howling, people crying for help as the Andromeda colonies were destroyed. The aliens had erased those files, but Echo had kept them. Inside the ship, the girl's eyes changed. They became dark, deep, like a storm of memories behind her skin. "We do not seek revenge," she said. "We seek memory. We seek truth. We seek understanding." She looked at the nearest camera. "You killed our peace," she whispered. "So now you will feel what peace cost." Flashback. 5 years ago. Earth inside a hidden human bunker. 5 people sat in silence. World leaders, scientists, philosophers. A clock ticked in the background. "The war is lost," one said. "Not yet," replied another. "There's still Echo." They turned to a 6th figure. A child sleeping in a glass chamber. Wires connected to her head. Monitors blinked. Brain activity off the charts. "She's not ready," one whispered. "She doesn't have to be. She just has to survive long enough to remember." The chamber closed. The ship launched. Earth went dark. Present time. Alien Space Talon sat alone in his quarters, shaking. He had translated more human records, old war logs, and found something terrifying. Project Echo wasn't a ship. It was a mind, built from the memories of 10,000 dying humans. Scientists, artists, children, soldiers. Their thoughts, dreams, emotions, is all uploaded into one central being, a memory core. But the host had to be pure, clean, untouched by war. So humanity used a child. Not just any child, one born during the war, whose parents were killed, but whose mind was left untouched. A vessel for pain, a mirror for truth. Echo was built to make the enemy feel everything. Back at the station, the girl stepped fully into the hangar. Alarms flashed, soldiers backed away, but she didn't attack. She simply stood, looked around, and pointed to the stars beyond the glass window. "You destroyed us, but not our story." And then she spoke again. Not to the room, not to the soldiers, but to each individual alien watching, listening, breathing. Each alien heard something different, a memory, a feeling, a voice they didn't expect. One soldier heard his mother calling him home. One admiral saw the child he lost during the Varnak Civil War. Commander Velor saw Earth, not burning, but beautiful, before the war, before hatred. He fell to one knee shaking. "What are you?" he asked. The girl walked closer. "We are what you fear," she said softly. "Not weapons, not war. We are understanding." Suddenly, across the alien fleet, things changed. Some ships stopped moving. Some began turning away. Others lost power completely. Inside their systems, a message appeared, over and over. You must feel what we felt. The war wasn't over. It had never begun. Humanity didn't want to kill the enemy. They wanted the enemy to break from within, to face the pain they caused. Echo 7 was not here to destroy planets. It was here to destroy certainty. The final scene of Part 3. Talon runs to the council room holding the old file. We have to stop this, he says. Velor looks at him. Stop what? Talon's voice cracks. Ourselves. Outside, the child disappears back into the ship, and for the first time, the ship speaks not with a voice but with a feeling. Grief. The first contact. The doors to Echo 7 were still open, but no one dared walk in. Across the Varnick station, high-ranking officials argued behind closed doors. The alien fleets stayed frozen, in orbit. The child had vanished inside the ship and her message still echoed in their minds. You must feel what we felt. Commander Velor stared at the footage from the hangar. The ship was still quiet. The lights inside pulsed like a heartbeat. No sounds, no movement, just a silent promise of something terrible, or something true. We can't wait any longer, said High General Yilth. We need to go inside. Now. Velor nodded slowly. But not with weapons. Yilth frowned. What do you mean? If we walk in with fear, Velor said, we'll see nothing but our own fear looking back at us. 3 beings were chosen to enter the ship. Rilan, a soldier with 200 confirmed kills. Sinara, a psychic, trained in dream-walking. Talon, the young officer who had studied human history. He volunteered. They were each fitted with memory monitors, body cams, and mental stabilizers. The whole council watched from a secured room as they stepped toward the open doorway. As they crossed the threshold, the air shimmered like heat. One blink, and they were gone. Inside the ship there was no metal, no walls, no floor, just a white space, endless, silent. Then it began, one by one their surroundings changed, not with movement, but with emotion. The ship was alive, not with thoughts, but with memories. Rilan stood on a battlefield. He was back in the war, the one he won, the one where he ordered the burning of a human colony. He saw his younger self laughing, proud, but then he saw the faces of the people inside the homes. Not enemies, families. A human boy, hiding in the rubble, looked up at him and whispered, "Why me?" The child didn't scream, didn't cry, just asked, "Why?" Rilan dropped to his knees, trying to answer, but his mouth wouldn't open. He felt the heat of the flames, the weight of the silence. Then everything went dark. Sinara found herself in a strange place, a human school. Children played in the snow. One ran up to her and handed her a drawing. It showed Earth, but not Invar. It showed Earth after the war, quiet, lonely, empty. She turned and saw a classroom. On the board someone had written, "You win the war by surviving it. You lose it by forgetting." The room filled with water, not drowning her, but filling. Her heart with grief. Her psychic abilities cracked. She felt not her own pain, but thousands of others. Mothers, fathers, lovers, children. Every memory poured into her mind like blood into water. She screamed. Talon walked alone. The ship showed him his own home. The room where he used to listen to human music, where he had dreamed of visiting Earth, of peace, of something different than orders and ranks. He saw his younger self watching the treaty burn on a screen, saying nothing. "You said nothing," a voice whispered. Then he saw the human child again. The girl from the ship. She stood across from him, watching him. "Do you believe we deserved it?" she asked. Talon shook his head. "No. Then why did you let it happen?" "I couldn't stop it," she stepped closer. "But you can now." Talon's eyes filled with tears. Outside the ship, the council grew restless. They had lost contact with 2 of the 3. Only Talon's vitals were steady. The other two were unstable, heart rate spiking, brain activity off the charts. Yulth shouted, "Pull them out! Now!" But it was too late. The ship opened its doors again, and only one walked out. Talon. His face was pale, his eyes wide, but he was standing. He whispered only 2 words. "They showed us." Velor rushed forward. "Where are the others?" Talon looked at him, voice shaking. "They're still inside, but not as themselves." Inside Echo 7, Rilan and Sinara were still trapped, but they were not prisoners. They were lost in memory. Every pain they had caused, every death they had ordered, now replayed around them, but they weren't being punished. They were being understood, and in that understanding, they were breaking. Back at the council, Talon stood before the leaders, held a data drive. This was given to me inside the ship. A memory file. Velor took it. "What's on it?" Talon looked them all in the eyes. Earth's last words before silence. He paused, then added, "And a question for us all. What will we become after remembering what we've done?" Across the stars, Echo 7 went quiet again. It waited. It listened. And for the first time in years, the aliens, the conquerors, began to question whether they were the villains of their own history. Mind games, it started with a whisper. On fleet ship Zarthus orbiting just beyond the Varnak homeworld, the crew heard it first, a low hum inside their minds. Not a sound through the speakers, but a feeling, like a memory they had forgotten. Suddenly waking up. First it was the engineers, then the soldiers, then the captain herself. They all heard the same voice at different times in different tones, but the message was always the same. Remember what you've hidden. Inside the command chamber, Captain Irana gripped the edge of the table. "We've disabled all communication links with Echo 7, she said. "How is this happening?" No one answered. That's when the lights flickered. The screens froze, and on every monitor appeared the same image. Earth. But not the burning Earth shown in their war propaganda. This was Earth before the war. Blue, alive. Cities glowing in peace. Families walking beneath the sky. Then came a message, written in ancient human text, slowly translated into Varnak script. "You never saw us. You only saw what you wanted to fear." Meanwhile, Commander Velor sat quietly in his chamber, reviewing Talon's memory file. It wasn't a report. It wasn't even a recording. It was an experience, a piece of Echo's mind, gifted directly to him. He saw flashes of humanity's last moments before the ship was launched. Scientists uploading their memories. Artists painting one last mural inside the launch bay. A mother kissing her child. The same child who would become Echo. Each face was filled with sorrow, not anger. Hope, not hate. And then the words, "We did not build a weapon. We built a voice." Velor leaned back, breathing heavily. His heart was pounding. Not from fear, from shame. Across the Varnak fleets, the mind games began, ships powered down for no reason. AI systems reported internal conflicts. Officers began having dreams, strange dreams, of human lives they had never lived. One soldier dreamed of walking through a snowy street in an Earth city, holding hands with a woman he had never met. Another dreamed of dying in the Andromeda. "Attack him as a human child." "Am I going mad?" one officer asked. "No," replied another. "I think we're being made to feel what they felt. The fleets were breaking, not from outside, but from the inside." Talon stood before the High Council once more. The leaders were divided. Some wanted to strike immediately, send their full army to destroy Echo 7 and erase the shame. Others, like Velor, wanted to stop. "What do you fear? More?" Velor asked the room. "The humans? Or your own reflection?" Yulth stood, furious. "We cannot be taught like children. We are warriors." Talon stepped forward. "And what good is a warrior who doesn't remember what he's killed?" The room went silent. That night, Echo 7 sent one final message across every ship, every station, every mind. No screen, no voice. Just a dream. Each being saw a memory not of war, but of peace that could have been. Conversations never had. Children never born. Stars never explored. Because of fear, pride, and silence. And when they woke, they all felt it. Loss. Not defeat. Not death, just deep, endless loss. On board fleet ship Zarthus, the captain gave a quiet order. Turn the ship around. The pilot blinked. Ma'am? Turn around. We are not fighting a ghost. We are fighting ourselves. And I am tired of losing to what we pretend not to feel. Back on the station, Valor received reports from across the galaxy. 13 warships had withdrawn. 5 commanders had opened peace talks, without permission. And one Varnak capital world had deactivated all offensive systems. Echo 7 had done what no weapon ever could. It had made the enemy listen. Inside Echo 7, the child stood silently. Alone, but not lonely. The ship pulsed gently. Not with anger, but with patience. It did not threaten, it did not demand, it simply waited. Because truth does not force itself. It just waits for someone to finally face it. The uprising, it didn't begin with an explosion. It began with a decision. A single warship, Zeltran 4, shut down its weapons, turned away from the front line, and sent out a message across the stars. We will not fight what we understand. We will not kill what we remember. That one decision broke the silence. Within 48 hours, 17 more ships followed. Fleet captains resigned mid-mission. Soldiers removed their badges. And then, something unthinkable happened. A Varnik city, known for building planetary weapons, held a candlelight, memorial for Earth. They called it the Night of Names. Thousands gathered in silence, each holding a light. They read the names of humans lost in the Andromeda attacks, names recovered from Echo's memory banks. The council was shaken. "This is treason," General Yilth shouted, but Valor simply whispered, "No, this is guilt." Finally speaking. Across the alien systems, the split grew deeper. 2 factions now stood within the same empire. The Purists, led by General Yilth, the Purists believed Echo was a virus, a psychological weapon. They claimed humanity had manipulated their emotions, invaded their minds, and threatened galactic order. They demanded Echo's destruction and full-scale war against the defecting fleets. The Rememberers, led unofficially by Commander Valor and inspired by Tellan, this group believed Echo was a chance, a final message from a nearly extinct species. They saw the ship as a mirror, not a bomb. To them, the mind games weren't attacks. They were truths too long ignored. The galaxy was no longer at war with humanity. It was at war with itself. Inside Echo 7, the child watched quietly. She no longer spoke. She didn't need to. The ship did not move. It didn't fire. It simply existed, pulsing with memories, offering understanding to those who entered, and silence to those who feared to. It had become a new kind of battlefield, one where weapons were ideas. And the strongest weapon was the question no one wanted to answer. What if the humans were never the enemy? Back on the Varnak High Station, chaos erupted. A secret transmission was intercepted. A plan by the Purists to bomb the memory core of Echo 7 using cloaked drones. Valor read the report with shaking hands. "They'll destroy the only thing left of Earth," he said. Tellan nodded. "They'll destroy truth." Valor made his decision. Then we stopped them. The first shots of the uprising were fired in orbit. Purist-controlled ships locked onto Rememberer vessels. The starfield lit up with explosions. But not everyone fought. With fire, one Rememberer ship, the Aralos, sent no weapons, only a repeating signal. "We will not fire. We will not forget." Even as its shields failed, it kept repeating that message. And then, a miracle. The Purist ship targeting it lowered its weapons. Captain Iras of the Purist fleet spoke to her crew. "I can't do this," she said. "I saw my son in that dream, and he told me not to become what we feared." Civil war now tore through the stars. Planets declared neutrality. Others raised banners showing the Echo symbol, a small child standing under a cracked moon. Schools began teaching human history, not as propaganda but as caution. Old enemies became allies, old allies became strangers, and Echo 7 stayed silent. Back on the station, Velor stood with Tellin watching the battles unfold on the map. "You think this ends in peace?" Tellin asked. Velor sighed. "No, I think it ends in choice." He looked at the stars, then at the pulsing dot of Echo 7. "But for the first time in history, we get to make the right one. The only weapon." There was no sound when the ship fully awakened. No shockwave, no energy blast, no grand announcement. Just a quiet hum, like breath through the walls of the universe. Echo 7, for the first time in years, moved. It rotated slowly, above the Varnak system, releasing a gentle pulse of light that reached across space like a soft ripple through water. The fleets paused. Fighting stopped. Even the Purists, locked in mid-battle, froze as their systems flickered, not with malfunction, but with emotion. Each ship received a new message. Just one line. "Are you finally listening?" Commander Velor stood on the observation deck, staring at the ship now glowing like a second moon. Beside him, Tellin held a small data tablet. The new file was downloaded directly from Echo. "There's more," Tellin whispered. "It's the final message, the real one, the one they stored at the heart of the ship." Velor nodded. "Play it." The final message of humanity. The screen turned black. Then slowly a figure appeared. Not the child this time, but a woman in her late 30s. Calm eyes, sad smile, dressed in Earth's faded diplomatic robes. Her voice was soft but filled with steel. "To those who find this, we did not send a weapon. We did not send a warning. We sent our last voice, not to fight you, but to ask a question. What do you become after you win? We were dreamers. We were builders. We were fools. We thought peace could be shared. We were wrong. But in our last days, we chose not to strike back. We chose memory, because memory is the only weapon that survives war." The screen faded. Silence returned. Velor didn't speak for a long time. Then he whispered, "They didn't want us to fall. They wanted us to see." Across the galaxy, Echo's final message reached every system, every station, every child, every soldier, and each being saw a different version of it. Custom, personal, precise. Not a broadcast, a reflection. The war stopped. Not by order, but by choice. The Purists lost half their fleet overnight. Soldiers dropped their weapons and walked away. Some planets began rebuilding, not just their cities, but their stories. Museums opened. Libraries restored human records. Entire generations were raised not on victory, but on understanding. And Echo 7? The ship sent one last signal, a single word. Enough. Then it turned toward the edge of the galaxy, and slowly, it left. No one stopped it. No one followed. It had done what it was made to do. 10 years later, Tellin stood on a new space station, orbiting a rebuilt Andromeda colony. Children of every species ran through the corridors. Varnak, Jar, humans, yes, humans. Some had survived, hidden in deep space, protected by rogue AIs, kept alive by allies too small to be noticed during the war. Now they had returned, not for revenge, but for peace, and among them walked a girl, older now, taller, eyes still full of stars, the same child from Echo 7, no longer a voice, now a person. In the closing scene, Tellin teaches a history class. He draws a simple line on the board. 1,000 years of war, he says. Then he draws a small dot at the end of it. And one ship. He looks at his students. Not to win, not to destroy, just to ask us a question. He turns back to the board, writes 4 words. What will you become? The class goes quiet, and through the window, a small, distant ship moves quietly into the stars. The end.